Dinghai Fusheng Records. Chapter 55. Different. Xiang Shu had suddenly become very exhausted for some reason. Despite this, he was still clear-headed. Chen Xing supported him towards the backyard and let him lie on a sickbed in the Huishun hall. Xie Dayun checked his pulse before looking at Chen Xing in silence. "Have you come into contact with anybody these days?" Xie Dayun asked. Chen Xing, "We had just arrived in Jiankong the day before yesterday. We did see a lot of people, but we didn't meet any strange individuals." Xie Dayun asked again, "What did you eat?" Chen Xing recalled that during their stay with the Xie family, their food and drink had been normal. Yesterday in Dongzhi, Xiang Shu also didn't drink the tea they had been served with, even though Chen Xing himself drank a lot. Later at night, they just drank wine in Feng Qiangjun's house, and it was impossible for Feng Qiangjun to have set them up. Chen Xing replied, and only then did Xie Dayun realize that Chen Xing was the guest at her little uncle's house. Chen Xing held Xiang Shu's hand and injected the heart lamp into Xiang Shu's body meridians. Oddly enough, there was nothing unusual. "This can't be." Xie Dayun didn't answer. Xiang Shu didn't fall asleep, he just raised his other hand and rubbed the space between his eyebrows using his thumb. Chen Xing said, "Xiang Shu, you feel sleepy ma?" "Not sleepy," Xiang Shu frowned. It was just that he had no strength left. "Go back first ba." At this time, Gu Qing came over with a bowl of thick medicinal soup. Chen Xing smelled a strong ginseng flavor. Xiang Shu said, "I don't need to drink this. I'm not sleepy. It's not the plague. Try drinking it." Chen Xing said. Xiang Shu appeared a bit irritated, he raised his hand to keep it away. Chen Xing, however, wouldn't let him off the hook. "I'll feed you, be obedient." Xie Dayun observed the relationship between the two people, then looked at Gu Qing. Gu Qing smiled reluctantly and nodded to Xie Dayun, meaning, "It's as you think." Xie Dayun slightly frowned, as if a little worried. Xiang Shu said, "Fine, I'll drink it myself." Chen Xing knew that Xiang Shu didn't like to show his weakness in front of people, so he didn't force him. After Xiang Shu had drunk the soup, he felt refreshed right away. "What herbs are inside?" Chen Xing asked Xie Dayun. "Ginseng root, gutta percha bark, Himalayan teasel root, bobchi fruit." Xie Dayun looked as usual as she recited more than 10 herb names in a row, all of which were tonics with strong yang attributes. Master's prescription. Xiang Shu got up after drinking the medicine, he didn't want to stay in the pharmacy any longer. Chen Xing got up after him. In any case, what he had wanted to know, Xie Dayun should have been able to roughly guess by now, and so, he could only apologize to her. Xie Dayun also didn't ask them for the medicine fee. She asked Gu Qing to take the two men out, prepare a carriage, and send them back to the Xie residence. "Are you feeling better?" Chen Xing was scared half for Xiang Shu, and half for himself. After all, in his mind, Xiang Shu had always been an omnipotent figure. It made him gradually forget that no matter how good his ability was, in the end, he still had a human body, flesh and blood, that had to eat rice, had to drink water, and had to sleep. When Chen Xing suddenly saw that he seemed to be sick, he immediately panicked and worried so much. Inside the carriage, he checked Xiang Shu's pulse all the time. Xiang Shu was thinking and didn't answer Chen Xing. After Chen Xing had called him several times in a row, Xiang Shu returned to his senses. When he met Chen Xing's eyes, he was slightly angered. "I said, I'm not sleepy. You don't believe me?" Chen Xing could only nod. He didn't know what to do at the moment and just hoped it wasn't a big deal. "I was investigating Kajara's whereabouts around 2 years ago. When I moved south from Luoyang, I also encountered the exact same situation," Xiang Shu said. "It led to me being taken prisoner by the Jin army." Chen Xing recalled, he had also been wondering for quite some time about that event. With Xiang Shu's level of skill, how on earth had he been caught? I lost all my strength in an instant. Xiang Shu frowned. What happened after that? Chen Xing was surprised. Xiang Shu thought out loud, I don't know, maybe I recovered because I took your medicine, or maybe I had already recovered before I even met you. But since the Hans didn't provide food or water, I couldn't break free. After being caught and moved to Xiangyang, I was weak for a long time. Xiang Shu raised his hand, trying to lift his broadsword. He was barely able to lift the sword. It was clear that his action was sluggish and lacking strength. It's like all of a sudden, my strength completely dissipates, Xiang Shu murmured. What's the matter? Chen Xing, will you calm down? What's wrong with me? Chen Xing was at a loss. Do I look panicked? Xiang Shu frowned and said, you look like you have the plague. Since I was able to recover last time, I'm sure this time is also the same. Chen Xing calmed down a bit. It's because I'm somewhat scared. Chen Xing took Xiang Shu by hand. Xiang Shu observed him for a moment. Eventually, Chen Xing gradually calmed down and said, let's take a day off and CBA. That very day, Chen Xing observed Xiang Shu's condition and suspected that it was some kind of disease that couldn't be rooted out. It made him more and more confused because Xiang Shu wasn't as sleepy as what Xie Dayun had described. His expression remained the same, and he looked only slightly tired. Perhaps he wasn't suffering from the plague. However, it might also be because Xiang Shu himself had a strong constitution that the symptoms weren't as obvious. That night, Chen Xing moved into Xiang Shu's room and slept with him on the couch. Early morning on the following day, Xiang Shu woke up as usual. Chen Xing said thank God to himself, got up, and pressed Xiang Shu's pulse. It was normal and beating steadily. How do you feel? Chen Xing asked. Xiang Shu got up, tried to lift the broadsword, then said, not good. It's difficult to even make a move. If an enemy comes, it'll be very troublesome. Saying so, Xiang Shu and Chen Xing exchanged a look. Both of them were aware of the danger. Chen Xing muttered, could it be them? Shi Has men have reached here. Xiang Shu said, maybe not. At least so far, none have come to trouble me yet. Perhaps, they haven't found out about my weakened condition and are still hiding in the dark. However, we have to be very careful and treat this seriously. After listening to what Feng Qianjun had said the other day, I kept feeling like something was wrong. It's impossible for Shi Hai to give up the south. He must have had Zhongkong in his mind as early as the war in Xiangyang. At first, Chen Xing had suspected that the plague was related to Shi Hai. Even if Shi Hai didn't personally do it himself or by sending his men to Jiangnan, the spread of the plague was all caused by the drought fiends. Yet, a good deal of complicated information interfered with his judgment and made him think, does this matter not have any relation with the drought fiends at all? From the beginning, did I guess it the wrong way? Chen Xing began to perceive some kind of unknown danger hidden underneath the restless, bustling Zhongkong city. Assuming that Shi Has subordinate had already lurked in Jiangnan and was prepared to overthrow the Jing court that was content with its territory, yet the implementation of his plan wasn't as smooth as it had been in the north, then everything that happened would make sense. You're right, Chen Xing admitted, I took it lightly. Xiang Shu nodded. It seemed that his presence wasn't diminished by the loss of strength at all. Chen Xing also discovered that only Xiang Shu's physical strength was eroded. His mind was still as clear as before, not at all resembling the usual description of losing both his yin and yang souls. Thus, Chen Xing revised his prescription and requested a Xie family's person to go buy the medicine ingredients. He excluded several medicines prescribed by Xie Dayun. He mainly focused on enhancing physical strength. Xian came to them as usual, inviting Chen Xing and Xiang Shu to have a meal. Chen Xing began to inquire whether there were any traces of strange people in Jiankong, Danyang, Kwaji, and Moling in the past year. No. Xian thought about it and said, what's the matter? I heard you went to see Dayun yesterday. Chen Xing and Xiang Shu had a simple discussion earlier and they decided to leave today to conduct a serious investigation. There could be no more delay, so he said, "These days, we won't bother you anymore. We have to go out." Xian said to Chen Xing, "I've dispatched someone to Kwaji a few days ago to find a place where the Akala Blade's documents were located. I think they'll be back today, or in 1 or 2 days. Wait a bit longer. Xiang Shu, the matter at hand is more important, so keep that for now. Maybe, we can run into them in Kwaji, too." Xian was about to say something but then hesitated. After a while, he asked again, "Is there anything I can do to help? Why are you in such a hurry to leave?" Actually, Chen Xing didn't suspect Xian. If Xian were really scheming against them, he wouldn't wait until this moment. Yet, the fewer people knew about this matter of Xiang Shu losing all of his strength, the better. As a result, he only said that it was related to the plague. When Xian heard about it, he unhurriedly nodded. Right at this moment, Xie Dayun came together with Gu Qing. "Better," Xie Dayun said as soon as she entered the door. She nodded to Xian and did the courtesy before going to check Xiang Shu's pulse and glanced at Chen Xing. Chen Xing slowly shook his head. "Brother Xiang isn't feeling well?" Xian asked. "Not the case," Chen Xing replied at once. Xie Dayun checked and found that he was relatively the same as yesterday. He wasn't drowsy, it wasn't like he really was infected by the plague. This made them really confused. Not a moment later, yet another visit was paid to Xian. It was the managers from Dongzhi Bank, but this time it wasn't Wen Zhai who came, but a number of men. Xian's house really was lively today. They only met with a person carrying a casket, and the inside was filled to the brim with title deeds. They said to Xiang Shu, "Sholudaran, these are title deeds that our madam ordered for us to bring. There really isn't enough money in the bank, so we can only bring some balances from the industries we opened in Jiankong, Kwaji, and such places from the previous year. What do you think?" Xian was already stupefied from listening. Chen Xing waved his hands to signal him to not ask at the moment. After seeing the title deeds, it seemed that when Wen Zhe went back to calculate, she found that the bank didn't have so much. Or perhaps she just didn't want to empty out all the silver for Xiang Shu, so she thought of this trick. "Just put it here." Xiang Shu's gaze was no different from usual. "How much is still left after calculating?" The person that came respectfully answered, "The title deeds and industries here are worth 100 million liang of silver, and there are still 200 million liang to be paid. The madam has asked Sholudaran to give us another half a year of time." "Hey! Little uncle!" Xie Dayun hurriedly straightened Xian's back. Xian almost passed out after hearing those words. "Fine." Xiang Shu saw that the other party even brought out title deeds, it was sincere enough. It wasn't good to pressure people too much, so he agreed to extend the time. The person that came may have long guessed that he would say that and hurriedly continued the conversation. He took out a pen and paper and said happily, "Please leave a note here so this lowly one can report back upon return." "What Sholokong, said can't be relied on?" Xiang Shu coldly asked, "You should go back now, or I might just change my mind." That person could only timidly retreat. Just as he was leaving the Xie mansion, yet another person came. It was Feng Qunjun. Feng Qunjun happened to pass by. He who was well informed obviously already heard of what was said. He asked as he walked in, "Brother Xiang, are you okay?" Everybody in the hall signaled at him with their eyes, only Xian subconsciously wanting to run. Feng Qunjun impatiently said, "I won't chase your debt anymore Xiedaran, I'm letting you off for another year." After half a shishan, in Xiang Shu's room, Chen Xing was packing his luggage, and Feng Qunjun was sitting, observing Xiang Shu's complexion. Xiang Shu frowned and asked, "What are you doing here again? How can I not come?" Feng Yunjun freaked out after Guqing finished telling him the happenings last night. He got up early in the morning to send someone to see what was going on, and so he hurried over to check out the situation the moment he saw Xie in return from court. You were drinking at my house the night before yesterday, then just yesterday you had an accident, how can I not come? Xiang Shu answered, it has nothing to do with your wine, that I'm sure of. Feng Yunjun asked, you guys are going to head to Kwaji now? Chen Xing replied, we can't wait much longer for Xie Shixing's news, we have to go as soon as possible. Feng Yunjun decisively announced, I'll go with you guys. Chen Xing looked at Xiang Shu and Xiang Shu nodded his head. It was also Feng Yunjun's goal to find out about Shi Has whereabouts. Currently, Xiang Shu didn't have any energy, so it should be safer with Feng Yunjun there. Thus, Feng Yunjun first went to take care of some business, and the three set off to Kwaji that afternoon. Somewhere under the dark ground, numerous winding underground rivers gathered. When the river waters passed through the lowlands, it held flashes of light, shining in the dark. The banks on both sides of the river were filled with strange glowing flowers. The sea of flowers reflected the dark space into blue. On the flowers rested butterflies with white light in their wings. The butterflies emitted particles of light, scattering outwards from the center of the sea of flowers. Within the sea of flowers, on the shoal at the heart of the rivers, appeared an elaborate array that covered nearly an acre of land. This array unremittingly drew power from the thousands of millions of butterflies underground, making their light alternate between suddenly glowing and suddenly paling. In the center of the array, there lay a huge black snake with a broken horn on its head and an endless flow of black gas coiled around its body. Its eyes were tightly shut. Wen Zhe stood outside the array with a small clock in her left hand, quietly staring at the snake. In accordance with your orders from yesterday, the power of the dragon array has been enhanced. Wen Zhe raised her slender eyebrow slightly and asked, but I don't understand, what use does this have? An experiment, said the man behind Wen Zhe. Wang Zi appeared on the coast outside the outer ring of luminous flowers. Beside him were three black armored warriors stepping out of the water. Wen Zhe was startled. She turned her head and glanced back to see three drought fiend kings simultaneously appear, astonishing her. What experiment? Wen Zhe asked again. It has almost succeeded in refining, to suddenly want to strengthen the dragon array now, Shi Hai Daren, just what do you want to do? In Wang Zi's hand was a black fan. He waved it with a devil-may-care attitude, saying, the dragon array is in full power to confirm a person's identity. The facts have already proven my guess was correct, but things still can't be taken lightly. Wen Zhe asked contemptuously, is that necessary? To dispatch 3 people for me. Wen Zhe turned around and looked at the 3 drought fiend kings before her. Wang Zi replied, to underestimate the enemy is a careless move. This led to Feng Tian, Zhou Zhen, and Zhou Yi's defeat and even the damage of 2 drought fiend kings. My lord has issued a command, Wen Zhe, don't overturn the boat in the gutter. Wen Zhe, that's unlikely. The resentment collected by the Luohun Bell is limited. At this rate, the power the soul flowers draw from the earth's veins may not be able to last much longer. Wang Zi responded, don't worry, they currently have no mana. What are their movements now? Wen Zhe, the exorcist left Jiankong today. Wang Zi said leisurely, I know, even though the truth is close at hand, it is always good to confirm carefully. I will go meet them for a bit now. Be careful, Wen Zhe reminded him. Wang Zi made a gesture with his hand and took away the 3 drought fiend kings, leaving Wen Zhe alone to guard the array. After a while, Wen Zhe entered the dragon array and gently stroked the eye of the giant snake, revealing a warm expression. 2 days later, in the channel leading from Jiankong to Kwaji. Xiang Shu, are you okay? Chen Xing asked Xiang Shu. Xiang Shu's sword was tied to the horse's back. At his side was Chen Xing and Feng Yunjun who led the horse into the mountain forests. Jianese ground was covered in greenery in spring, the hills were covered in terraced fields, making people feel relaxed and happy at the sight. Feng Yunjun made the horse slow down. He remarked to Xiang Shu, "Remember a little over a year ago, we were also like this on our way to Chang'an?" Unwittingly, a whole year has already passed. Xiang Shu didn't reply. Chen Xing was afraid of him growing faint again, so he purposely slowed down a little. "I should have stayed in Jiankong," Xiang Shu remarked, "I dragged you both behind." Chen Xing frowned, "How can you say that?" Xiang Shu replied, "I can't help feeling a little uneasy about leaving the magical artifacts at Zifeng. But letting you head to Kwaji alone makes me even more uneasy." Feng Yunjun, "Hey, brother Xiang, I heard all that. Turns out in your eyes, I'm not even a person." Xiang Shu, "Money. Don't." Feng Yunjun immediately cried out, "Gag, I'm not a person. I will head to the front now and scout the way for you guys." Before Chen Xing and Xiang Shu left the city, they temporarily deposited the yin-yang mirror and zhang drum as well as that set of rings in a secret room of the Zifeng Bank. If there was an accident, they were afraid that the magical artifacts would be lost again. "Everything will be fine," Chen Xing calmly expressed. "Sometimes I can also protect you guys. My luck has always been great, just don't stay too far from me." The three people passed through a canyon. Feng Yunjun, who walked at the front, suddenly slowed his footsteps. Chen Xing and Xiang Shu stopped from behind Feng Yunjun. "What did you guess before?" Feng Yunjun asked. Chen Xing, "You thought that it was Shihai that made brother Xiang sick, right?" Chen Xing pondered and said, "Maybe, but it still needs evidence to support it." Feng Yunjun questioned again, "What did Xian say again? What did he send people to Kwaji to investigate for you?" Chen Xing. "Xiang Shu." Feng Yunjun urged the horse forward. When they arrived at the depths of the canyon, a pale corpse hung on a tree in front of a stream. The corpse was donned in the Jin people's apparel, and on the front of its gown hung a waist tag. The three people dismounted the horse. Feng Yunjun removed the waist tag from the corpse. On it were the words "Jin Dynasty's Minister of Internal Affairs Lin." Chen Xing looked at the waist tag and exclaimed, "This is a person from the Ministry of Internal Affairs? This is Xian's subordinate. How did he die here?" Suddenly, the corpse roared madly. It opened its turbid eyes and grabbed at Chen Xing. "Watch out!" Although Xiang Shu had no martial power, his reaction wasn't slow in the slightest. He pulled Chen Xing away. Chen Xing was given a big fright, raised his hands, and summoned the heart lamp. When the living corpse was illuminated by the light, it suddenly screamed in fear. Its neck was hung from the tree, with no way to escape, it could only wildly struggle, looking extremely frightening. On the higher parts of the canyon, Wang Zi, who had spectated the scene the entire time, seemed to have found this incredibly interesting, causing him to laugh. The three drought fiend kings behind him were all standing erect with their swords. Wang Zi waved his fan and commanded, "Go." Immediately afterwards, the drought fiend kings bowed, morphed into shadows, and flew down from the cliff. The next moment, Feng Yunjun suddenly swerved his left arm behind him and pressed his right arm against his waist. Two swords immediately shot out. Xiang Shu turned around and used his shoulder to push Chen Xing aside, making him fall with him to the side. The three drought fiend kings pulled out their swords at the same time, each going against one person. Feng Yunjun hadn't turned around yet and used his back that held the double knives to block an attack. Chen Xing was pressed by Xiang Shu to the ground and avoided by rolling. An enemy attack. Feng Yunjun just managed to shout. "Quickly go!" End chapter. Dinghai Fusheng Records. End chapter. Chapter 56. Probing. Almost simultaneously, Feng Yunjun's double blade was knocked out of his hands by that monstrous strength, and he was also sent flying backwards by the power of that hit. Xiang Shu's shoulders hit the ground, cushioning Chen Xing while the two of them tumbled around. Once, twice, 3 times in a row, successfully avoiding the ambush of those three linked moves. Chen Xing immediately pointed at the enemy while loudly shouting, "Drought Fiend Kings!" The ambusher was indeed the Drought Fiend King Sima Yang, and the two following behind him were the Changsha Wang Sima Yi and Chengdu Wang Sima Ying, but Sima Wei had long since left. The Drought Fiends lunged forward with another strike, just as Xiang Shu pushed aside Chen Xing and fluidly blocked with his sword. Even though his physical power was low, he cleverly used the principle of leverage to its limits as he applied soft force upon that thrust, which caused it to connect with both the strikes of Sima Liang and Sima Ying. He spun the two sword tips, now interlocked, and the two Drought Fiend Kings' techniques slammed into each other, letting out a cacophony of noise, while he successfully extricated himself. Despite his split attention, Feng Yunjun loudly cheered, but Chen Xing could tell that the three of them were clearly not at the same level as their enemies. Go! Xiang Shu had also judged that a drawn-out battle was not to their advantage, and the two of them mounted their horses. As the horse galloped by, Feng Yunjun withdrew his blades and leaped onto the horse, but behind them, the three kings didn't give chase but rather stopped in their tracks entirely. The three people kept galloping on their horses, rushing out of the valley. Chen Xing couldn't resist glancing backwards, where he saw the three kings climbing onto their own steeds and galloping towards them, obviously not letting them go. "I'll lead them away!" Feng Yunjun shouted. Xiang Shu responded, "They're only living corpses, they're not pigs or dogs. They won't fall for your trick." The horses galloped through the village. Feng Yunjun wanted to head towards the back of the village, but Xiang Shu shouted, "Come back! Don't drag other people into this." Chen Xing suddenly realized that if they were to fight in this place, casualties would be inevitable, so he shouted, "What should we do?" "I don't know." Feng Yunjun yelled. "Let's run first." While their pursuers relentlessly chased them, Chen Xing's heart was filled with horror. How did the Drought Fiend Kings travel to Jiangnan? How long had it been since they arrived? What exactly was their goal in ambushing them on their own on the road? "They're testing me." Xiang Shu panted, as if he could hear Chen Xing's thoughts without turning his head back to look. Chen Xing dazedly responded, "What?" "Xiang Shu, they're checking. Checking to see if I've already lost all of my ability to fight back." Chen Xing suddenly realized that when the three kings revealed themselves, they hadn't focused immediately on killing them, but rather on exchanging blows, and that was in order to test if Xiang Shu could still fight back. "They want to capture Chen Xing," Xiang Shu said. "Feng Yunjun, we need to split up. Draw them into the graveyard." Feng Yunjun replied. "I need resentful energy to use the artifact." Xiang Shu and Feng Yunjun passed through several towns. It was almost Qingming, and a lot of commoners had arrived in the Jiangnan area, bringing bamboo baskets with them to go pay respects to the dead at their ancestral graves. Feng Yunjun took the two of them meandering through the foothills, and when they arrived before a range of hills, they broke through the boundary and stormed into the forest of graves within. "You guys need to leave quickly," Feng Yunjun said. "I'll follow behind as soon as I can. We'll regroup in Kwaji. Don't worry about me. I'm very familiar with the Jiangnan region." Many of the common people in the graveyard stood up, staring strangely at Feng Yunjun. Chen Xing shouted towards them, "Run quickly! Leave this place!" Soon enough, Sima Liang was the first to rush in. Once the commoners saw this warrior clad in black armor astride a large horse, they started panicking and screaming, all of them fleeing for the exit of the graveyard. Feng Yunjun breathed in deeply, his two hands holding his Sen Luo saber, the blade of which was wreathed with incorporeal black energy. In the light of the day, a crow flew by. Xiang Shu looked up sharply at the sky. Chen Xing also felt it. Shi Hai was currently watching them. Immediately after that, Xiang Shu abandoned his horse and pulled Chen Xing along in a swift run as they rushed into the forest. "Feng Dage. He'll be fine," Xiang Shu loudly said. "Their target is you." Chen Xing recalled how Sima Wei had ignored the rest of the group, focusing solely on kidnapping Chen Xing to take him back to Zhongyuan. That had also been Shi Ha's command, so the key point was that their enemies were no longer focusing on Feng Qianjun or Xiangshu. Originally you were a demon-slaying exorcist, Sima Liang said calmly. But now you wield a demonic weapon and control resentful energy. When did you join our side? Feng Qianjun responded calmly, apologies, but I can only temporarily make do with your methods so that I can repay you in full. Just as he finished his sentence, Feng Qianjun's Senluo blade collected all of the resentful energy in the cemetery. He crossed his arms and slashed once, twice, and with 3 consecutive slices, that blade energy shot out like an arrow. As it flew along its path, the black energy gathered together like a physical mass, but the 3 kings immediately blocked the energy with their swords, emerging unscathed. However, wherever the blade energy landed in the forest surrounding them, the flora blackened like charcoal and extended grasping vine tendrils towards the 3 kings. Instantly, the greenery that once existed in a radius of a feet turned barren, as if it had been engulfed in a cloud of flames, and as the dead branches steadily increased in number, all of them headed towards the 3 drought-fiend kings, Sima Liang, Sima Yi, and Sima Ying. Chen Xing rushed out of the trees. Xiangshu panted harshly before planting his sword into the ground. When the 2 of them had used the cover of the trees to escape, initially it had been Xiangshu leading Chen Xing, but later, it became Chen Xing grabbing Xiangshu's wrist, dragging him along to escape. I can't run anymore, Xiangshu gasped. I need to save some energy. They will catch up to us eventually, I can hold them off for a bit. You need to go quickly. Where can I run to? Chen Xing asked incredulously. It was already after midday. Chen Xing looked at the road in front of him and realized that they had already entered the bounds of Kwaji. They're looking for you, Xiangshu said. I don't know why Shi Han wants to capture you, but you must not fall into their hands. Go. Leave quickly. Saying this, Xiangshu turned his back on Chen Xing, facing the forest with his sword held in a 2-handed stance. Chen Xing glanced at Xiangshu and thought deeply for a few seconds, before turning and running onto the road. Xiangshu felt that despite the decrease in his physical strength, his mind was abnormally clear. As soon as something happened to him, Shi Han's underlings had arrived. These events were not a coincidence but were instead premeditated. A huge roar resounded in the distance, like an avalanche had occurred at the cemetery in the hills. He didn't know how much longer Feng Qianjun could delay their enemies. Many crows flew by. Xiangshu slowly backed up, warily watching the crows as one landed, and then another, gathering right by Xiangshu in some odd array. Xiangshu wiped his sword in their general direction and managed to startle a few into flight, but very quickly more crows came to fill in the gaps. Almost 100 crows had gathered around Xiangshu, forming a very strange picture. Shoo dash! Came a sudden loud shout from behind. The light of the heart lamp burst out, startling the murder of crows into breaking their formation. Chen Xing, who held the reins in his hand, galloped quickly to Xiangshu's side. It's great! I found a post stop over there. I bought this horse off them. Chen Xing shouted. Having money is really very good. Quickly, get on the horse. Xiangshu shook himself out of his stupor and climbed onto the horse, just managing to sit firmly on it. Chen Xing turned the horse around, angrily shouting towards the trees, Shi Hai, you bastard! Go play with your birds on your own. We won't be joining you. Xiangshu. Right afterwards, Chen Xing turned the horse around again, rushing onto the road, taking Xiangshu with him as they escaped. A few breaths later, Sima Liang and Sima Yi ran out of the trees, but all they saw of Chen Xing and Xiangshu were 2 little black dots steadily shrinking in the distance. They actually managed to run this fast. Never mind then. Even if they escape to the ends of the earth, they can't escape my grasp, so there's no need to chase them, Wang Zi said, walking out of the forest. The dragon binding array has served its purpose, and Shulukong is already no longer a threat. Take a shortcut and get to Kwaji before they do to await their arrival. Kill Chen Xing but make sure Shulukong stays alive so that he can hand over the artifact. We do not need to cleanly resolve matters today. The Drought Fiend Kings turned, looking towards Wang Zi. Wang Zi made a hand motion, indicating that they should move as he commanded. Xiang Shu. Chen Xing said, turning his head. Are you all right? Xiang Shu's large body was half pressing down on Chen Xing, but with great effort he straightened up and said, I won't die. Chen Xing had once lost Xiang Shu, and he was afraid that if they kept running, Xiang Shu would fall off the horse, so he grabbed the other's two hands and secured them around his own waist. He then covered the backs of those hands with his own, so Xiang Shu was tightly holding on to him. Xiang Shu. Last time at Xiangyang, Chen Xing said. Sorry about that. Xiang Shu, what? Chen Xing, I won't lose you again. Chen Xing kept urging the horse forward while glancing back every now and then. Upon seeing that the three kings weren't giving chase anymore, he finally relaxed. Xiang Shu. Chen Xing turned his head, only to meet Xiang Shu's complicated expression. Xiang Shu stiffly turned his head away. We need to think of a plan to replenish our energy, Xiang Shu said. I don't know what Shihai fed me or what magic he managed to cast, but on this journey from Jiankong to Kwaji, I've been feeling increasingly powerless. Is it getting worse? Chen Xing asked, curious. Xiang Shu nodded and said, it isn't poison. I don't think that he had an opportunity to feed me the devil god's blood, even when I wasn't paying attention. Chen Xing seemed to have thought of something, and he asked again, from yesterday when you became aware of the abnormality to when we left Jiankong, your symptoms hadn't worsened, right? Xiang Shu said, correct. What is your point? Chen Xing, as we traveled towards Kwaji, your body became weaker and weaker, correct? Xiang Shu made an gook sound and said, maybe it has something to do with using moves. Chen Xing chirped the horse forward, and asked again, could it be? Could they have set up an array in some location to limit your strength? But where would they have concealed it? Chen Xing was guessing blindly, yet he had almost exposed the entire truth of the matter. However, their current situation was not one where they had the luxury of pondering deeply on it. In the hazy dusk, the gates of Kwaji loomed out of the misty twilight. Chen Xing had been riding until he was constantly gasping for breath, but when they arrived outside of the city gates, there were no people around at all. Even the gate guards were out of sight. Xiang Shu looked around at their surroundings as his brow began to furrow. Now what should we do? Chen Xing said. He then asked Xiang Shu, are you hungry? Xiang Shu. Chen Xing. Xiang Shu, can't you think of solutions on your own? If one day I'm not by your side, will you just have no more ideas? Why are you suddenly being so fierce? Chen Xing never thought that even like this he would get scolded, but when he thought about it from the other's perspective, that was indeed the case. Ever since he met Xiang Shu, he had stopped thinking on his own entirely, and every time he wanted to take a step, he would instead ask Xiang Shu about what to do next. Oh, Chen Xing could only say. Occasionally I also can act autonomously. When he hadn't said that line, things were still all right, but as soon as the words left his mouth, Xiang Shu got irritated and responded, besides sneaking out late at night to go north, what other ideas can you even come up with? Xiang Shu didn't know why, but when he saw Chen Xing like this he felt very dispirited. In addition, during their fight just now, he had been focused on stalling their foes instead of protecting himself so that Chen Xing could escape. And yet Chen Xing, even had he managed to successfully escape on his own, if Xiang Shu wasn't with him, when he got to Kwaji, he would just answer most questions with I don't knows. When he thought to this point, Xiang Shu's eyes darkened. What exactly was this fellow thinking? We should find a place to hide, Chen Xing said, and wait for Feng Dage to rejoin us, right? You still need to ask about this. Xiang Shu responded incredulously. Xiang Shu was worrying over keeping Chen Xing alive, but Chen Xing thought he was incensed because of the loss of his power, so he couldn't help but explain to him. Shifu said that everyone thinks common tasks are easy to execute perfectly, but the idea of doing things perfectly is just wishful thinking. When you push forward hastily, everything will become a mess instead, and that's why people have the old saying, the designs of humans cannot be compared with those of the gods. Relax, they won't be able to catch us. Xiang Shu said, they will come again. Before they do, we need to come up with a way to deal with them. We don't want to frighten anyone, we should first go into the city and find the Kwaji provincial official. Chen Xing almost forgot what he had originally come here for. After Xiang Shu reminded him, he finally remembered that they came to investigate the cause of the plague and additionally to verify the origin and content of the bamboo slip. The two of them moved towards the manor of the local authorities. With Xian's letter in hand, gaining an audience with the county official was very easy. Chen Xing explained their origins to the county official called Wu Qi. After listening, Theman sighed and responded, the imperial court has finally taken note of these matters. Chen Xing originally wanted to explain that this had nothing to do with the imperial court, but then he thought, no need to unnecessarily burden oneself, and instead responded, the first person who was confirmed to be infected with this disease, are they currently residing in Kwaji? The official ordered his men to bring the household register and said, the person in question is currently still bedridden. He's a traveling salesman who made a trip to my city last year, and upon his return, he fell ill. At the time, he went to all the doctors in the city, but none of them could sense anything strange about him. Gossip spread through the streets however, as the citizens all said that my city had the corpse-changing disease, and this salesman had brought the corpse poison with him, thus spreading the plague. Now, the rumors have finally died down because those who were knowledgeable explained matters. The city officials also set down an order, and things have gradually calmed down. Tomorrow, let's go check out the situation, Xiang Shu said towards Chen Xing. All right. Chen Xing thought of the citizens who had been infected with this plague. When they went out during the night they were tainted with evil energy, but at high noon their spirits were in better shape. Wu Qi spoke again, yes, several days ago Xie even sent someone here to investigate a specific matter in a book. The messenger left the city early this morning. Did you happen to pass them on the road? Chen Xing. Xiang Shu suddenly reached out and pressed down on the back of Chen Xing's hand to calm him. Chen Xing's voice trembled at this moment. He. Was his surname Lin? Yes. Exactly, Wu Qi said, Lin Darren from the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Chen Xing had confirmation, that corpse was indeed the messenger. Chen Xing pondered for a moment before deciding to not tell him about the situation just yet. He answered, I must write a letter, which must be sent back to Xie Darren in Jiankong immediately. Wu Qi felt this was a little strange but didn't inquire further. He fetched a quill and paper for Chen Xing to write his letter. Xiang Shu suddenly asked, was the messenger carrying any documents with him? Wu Qi was surprised by this inquiry, and responded, naturally not, his directive was only to review the records from 300 years ago that pertained to the circumstances of several gentry clans within the city. Chen Xing's right hand had been shaking the entire time he was writing. The messenger definitely had found some important information but didn't leave them a single word. Had the Drought Fiend Kings interrogated him? What had this person told them? What about their circumstances? Xiang Shu continued. Chen Xing's movements stuttered a little. He admired the way that Xiang Shu, even when faced with such difficult problems, managed to stay this calm and logical. Wu Qi, rumor has it that this bamboo slip came from one of the families in this province, and the manor that this same family bought was affiliated with a certain gentry clan from Kwaji over 100 years ago. As he spoke, he smiled a little, and then explained, legend has it that one member of that notable family was later known as Xiang Yu, who fought by the side of the Han progenitor Liu Bang, of the Kwaji Xiang clan. With a wang sound, Chen Xing suddenly felt that the heavens and earth spun around him. His voice didn't sound anything like his own anymore. "Where is that family now?" Chen Xing asked. With this, Xiang Shu also had no more to say. Wu Qi said, "To the east of the city, in the shadow of the mountain, next to the bridge covered by willows that crosses the small creek, there is a big manor. However, that family has also been struck by the plague." Previously, Lindaran had specially made a trip over there to check on them, which delayed him for a few days. Chen Xing met Xiang Shu's eyes and contemplated matters for a moment, before finishing his letter and saying, "Please send this tonight to Jiankong." Wu Qi agreeably said, "Since the two of you have traveled so far to get here, how about?" "No," Xiang Shu refused with a single word. "We'll find our own place to stay. After a few days, we might have to disturb you again." Chen Xing knew that Xiang Shu didn't want to create more troubles for others. After all, Feng Qianjun hadn't appeared yet. If the Drought Fiend Kings chased them into the province, the guards under Wu Qi command would not be able to stop them, and if they once again caused chaos, it would only harm the people who lived here. As night fell, the two of them left the official's manor and walked onto the long street. Xiang Shu kept sighing and watching Chen Xing suspiciously. "I remember you said," Xiang Shu asked. "Yes," Chen Xing mumbled, "I did say before that the Kwaji Xiang family was very famous. Back then, in Kwaji, Xiang Yu raised a militia to fight the Qin, so the Xiang family resettled here, but why was the bamboo slip found there?" Chen Xing raised his eyes, feeling very doubtful. He observed Xiang Shu, thinking that not long ago he would have casually dismissed Xiang Shu's clan name, but with a single prophetic line, that bamboo slip about the Akala blade actually had some connection to the Xiang family. Xiang Shu did not respond, instead ducking his head down and walking, quietly pondering. Chen Xing said, "We need to first find a place to stay and properly lay out the details of the entire affair. The fate of the Dinghai Pearl, the information on the Akala blade, the appearance of the Drought Fiend Kings, the spread of the plague, Xiang Shu's birth identity. Everything was becoming more and more bewildering. But Chen Xing kept feeling like there was a strong link between these 5 matters. As long as one was untangled, the others would also follow suit. Maybe it's just a coincidence that their surname is also Xiang, Xiang Shu said. They shouldn't have a strong connection with my mother. Chen Xing said, I feel that these are not coincidences. First, Zhonglu arrived in Karasha, and your mother also arrived in Karasha. In the yin-yang mirror, we found the Akala blade, and the records pertaining to it appeared within the Kwaji Xiang family. Xiang Shu. Chen Xing said, what did you think of? Xiang Shu didn't say anything, instead pushing Chen Xing behind him to protect him. This movement snapped Chen Xing out of the haze of his own thoughts. The long, straight street was filling with resentment so dense it looked solid. It poured in from the two ends, rushing towards the center where the two of them stood. In front of Xiang Shu, on the north side of the street, 2 Drought Fiend Kings stepped out from the fog of resentment, Sima Yi and Sima Ying. Behind Chen Xing, on the south side, Sima Liang appeared. I remember you said, Xiang Shu said calmly, I Upiter would always save you. Technically, that is correct. Chen Xing said. Xiang Shu, no matter how dangerous the situation is, you have always managed to survive. Chen Xing answered, it should be that way. But it's still better not to go seeking death. Let's think of a way to escape, since we really can't beat them. Xiang Shu, you should definitely be able to escape. Follow me and find an opening. Keep yourself safe. Chen Xing, wait. After saying this, without a shred of hesitation, Xiang Shu dragged the Akala blade behind him and charged towards the 2 Drought Fiend Kings. Chen Xing could only follow behind Xiang Shu as he wielded the heart lamp. There was no way to break through, but he suddenly realized that the dense resentment that had closed off the area acted like a defensive array made out of resentment, and the light of the heart lamp, when faced with the crazed oppression of the resentment, had already dimmed. Even if Xiang Shu's strength hadn't been lost, it would still be exceedingly difficult to defeat 3 drought fiend kings, so how could he win in this situation where he couldn't even lift his heavy sword? Despite this, he knew that no matter what, he had to ensure that Chen Xing would safely break through. He threw his weight behind his sword and savagely struck out at Sima Yi, but Sima Yi had already figured out that Xiang Shu's power was lacking and grabbed Xiang Shu in a chokehold, slamming his body onto the wall and striking him squarely with his shield. The wall let out a splintering noise as it split. Xiang Shu shouted wildly as that great blow drove all the air out of his lungs. At this moment his suffering was unbearable, but still he held tightly onto the heavy sword and didn't let go. Chen Xing pointed a finger in that direction, and the heart lamp gathered its brilliance, breaking through the darkness. The 2 drought fiend kings immediately dodged to the left and right, flanking Chen Xing. Behind him, Sima Liang had already drawn his bowstring. Chen Xing turned his body, raised his hands, and opened his eyes widely. "Where's your eye uppeter now?" A trickle of blood ran from the corner of Xiang Shu's mouth. With difficulty, he pushed himself upright. He then tilted his head and looked in the direction of a nearby house, calculating if he could take Chen Xing and burst through the house to try and escape. "Chen Xing, eye uppeter, come out. Or else I'm really going to be done for." Sima Liang let the arrow fly and the 2 drought fiend kings lifted their swords, completely ignoring Xiang Shu as they sliced down towards Chen Xing. The swords slashed, and just as they were going to behead Chen Xing, before the echo of the words ended, a black shadow darted in from the rooftop. All of the resentment on that long street began to flow towards that black shadow, which turned out to be a mask-wearing youth slightly shorter than Chen Xing's elbow. He zipped by and let out a wolf howl. "Xiao! Xiao Shan!" Chen Xing said as he heard that sound. He never imagined that Xiao Shan would appear at this moment. Closely following, Xiao Shan's 2 claws hooked onto the tangible darkness swirling under the blackness of the night. He pulled it towards himself and then released the attack. Sima Ying and Sima Yi simultaneously had their swords snapped and their shields broken as they flipped in midair, narrowly avoiding the claw attack. The light of Kangsheng Yuli's attack swiped Sima Ying's shoulder as it passed, neatly slicing his pauldron off. Xiao Shan wore a ghost face mask and a set of dirty hunting robes. Around his neck was tied a bandana. He shouted, "Chen Xing! Go!" Without saying another word, Xiang Shu grabbed Chen Xing and crashed into the house. They ran to the backyard, shoving open the yard gate, and they rushed out on the other side. Xiao Shan's 2 eyes turned bloodshot as he turned and leapt onto the rooftop. Once the 3 drought fiend kings on the street caught up, they saw Xiao Shan turn and leap upwards off the roof, and without a single backwards glance, send a claw attack behind him, slicing off half the roof. The house collapsed, confining the drought fiends in the rubble below, and then with an elegant leap, Xiao Shan followed Xiang Shu and Chen Xing in escaping. End chapter.